Hi everyone, Allison Waldman here, talking to you about for the Barbra Streisand videocast, which is this is really number 7. I screwed up last week and said number 7 was last week, but this is really number 7, so hopefully the math is now correct. Welcome. We're going to call this one Happening, because we're going to talk all about a happening in Central Park. Which was a request from somebody on the message board. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was Gary who asked. So Gary, this is for you. Let's talk about happening in Central Park. I was not there. In 1967, when it happened, I was not yet a Barbra fan. I did not become a Barbra fan until after Funny Girl came out. And what happened with Happening in Central Park is a great story. It was June 17th, 1967. Barbra was already in Hollywood filming Funny Girl. She had done her third TV special, but it had yet to be broadcast. That was Bella 14th Street. CBS was not happy with Bella 14th Street, and they delayed broadcasting it. And they asked Barbra to do another special, to get another one in the can, because they didn't have a lot of faith in Bella 14th Street. Which turned out to be correct. So Barbra literally was working all week on Funny Girl, left California on a Friday, got to New York City. They had Friday and Saturday to rehearse the concert before they did the concert on Sunday. I believe it was Sunday. It rained. It was miserable. Also, back then, they had not been doing free concerts in the park. And by the way, the concert was free. It was sponsored by Rheingold Beer, which is no longer even around, so that they would pay for the expenses, and clearly CBS would pay for other expenses. But if you wanted to go, all you had to do was show up. Problem was, because of the rain, they weren't sure how many people were going to show up or what the conditions were going to be like. And they even had to get not rain insurance, they had to get mud insurance, because they weren't sure whether or not they could get the equipment in there if the ground was too wet, and also where would people sit? They'd have to sit on the ground, the wet ground. Well, it turned out that they truly underestimated how popular Barbra was in June of 1967, because they expected maybe 50,000 people would show up. They got 135,000. 135,000 people to Sheep Meadow in Central Park. Now, the event itself was, they filmed for over 2.5 hours. The TV special was all of, 52, 53 minutes. So we didn't get to see the whole thing. But Barbra was basically doing the concert that she had done this previous summer. Remember, after Funny Girl after she left Funny Girl in London because she found out she was pregnant with Jason, she had planned to spend the entire summer touring America. But when she found out she was pregnant, it became just 4 shows. Those 4 shows were Atlanta, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Newport. So that show was really a collection of different songs that Barbra had been singing on all of her albums. It really wasn't even what we're used to with the concert in Timeless, was more of a stage show. Back then it was really more like a collection of songs. So Barbra came out and she had a lot of songs to do. 33 songs. 33 songs. That included a beautiful Je m'appelle Barbra medley of What Now My Love, Autumn Leaves, and I Wish You Love, which if you've ever heard any of the bootlegs of that from the JFK in Philadelphia, magnificent. Just incredible that she was able to do that material live. Now, one of the things that happened with Central Park is, because of the time, 1967, that was right at the time of the 6-Day War. And Barbra had been singing for Israel, pro-Israel. And Egypt, which had the war with Israel, protested and wasn't going to show Funny Girl. They protested the fact that Omar Sharif, who was Egyptian, was in the movie with Barbra Streisand, who was Jewish. So they were protesting the film. They weren't going to show it when it was released. And to complicate matters, when Barbra did Happening in Central Park, there were death threats. Death threats. There was reports that she might be shot at. And think about the climate at the time. This is post the JFK assassination. This is before RFK was shot and Martin Luther King. But clearly there was an atmosphere of, things were possible. So it was kind of frightening when you think about it. And on stage, you really couldn't tell that Barbra was frightened. Years later, she told Gene Siskel that she was, bobbing around the stage so that nobody could get a clean shot at her. But her fear was real, and it did cause her to go up on 2 lyrics. One was in the middle of I'm in Love with Harold Mengett, which is also called Value. She screwed up the lyric on that. And then years later, she remembered that she also screwed up the lyrics to When the Sun Comes Out. And, those were the days there was no teleprompters, or if they were, they weren't using them. And that stage fright and that experience got to Barbra really, really deeply. So much so that she really decided to not do any more concerts unless she was doing it for a charitable cause or for some other reason. So really, it wasn't until, she did she did shows in Vegas because she was contracted to do them. But it really wasn't until 1986 with One Voice that she sort of decided to come back and try concertizing again. But back to Central Park. Some other interesting things to tell you about Central Park. My brother-in-law, Elliot Tunis, was at NYU at the time. And he was going to NYU at the time. He lived in Brooklyn, another Brooklyn boy. And when he and his friends found out that Barbra Streisand was doing a free concert in Central Park, they decided to take the subway and go into the city to see her. Well, as Elliot described it to me, as they got off the train and started walking towards Central Park, towards Sheep Meadow, there was so many people. You couldn't even get near the lawn. It was packed. You can only imagine how many people 135,000 people are. He said that when they got close enough that they could hear Barbra, because they had put, Phil Ramone was doing the sound, and later on he did the sound for Star Is Born, and they had managed to wire the park so that her voice could be heard everywhere, for blocks around. So Elliot told me that they could hear her singing, but they couldn't see her. She was literally nothing but a speck of light, a dot of light at the end of a long, 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 view. But he hung out. He said he hung out and he listened and that it was pretty cool. Now, somebody who did get close enough was a woman named Melanie Seinfeld, and yes, she is related to Jerry Seinfeld. She's Jerry's cousin. And Melanie attended, I believe, the first and possibly the second Barbra reunion, and she told the story of being at Central Park for a happening and being close enough. She'd gotten there with her friend. They had gotten close enough that they had blankets, and they were close enough to the stage that they could see everything, and they were waiting for the show. And what Melanie did after the show was over, and after Barbra had taken her bows and gone off the stage, Melanie went up and took Barbra's teacup. Barbra's teacup, And to this day, she has that teacup. And she has it hermetically sealed in plastic, and she saved it. And but she swiped it, which is pretty cool. I wonder what Jerry would think, knowing that his cousin had done that to Barbra Streisand, stolen her teacup. So let's see, what else? Oh, so the other thing to tell you about Happening in Central Park is that Barbra sang a few new songs. She sang Love is Like a Newborn Child and Marty the Martian, and which I'm not sure was it really dedicated to Marty Ehrlichman, maybe it was, and Natural Sounds, which was just gorgeous. And in the middle of Natural Sounds, the wind actually blows at one point when she's singing the lyric, something about the wind, and it's really cool. It's really cool. Barbra mentions it in the introduction to the TV specials. So that's the Happening in Central Park story. And, you know, it was very, very cool because then what happened is, and this was the first instance of Barbra synergy, as I like to call it. The show was actually taped June 17th in 1967. Then when they did the Hollywood Bowl a week later, they recorded some audio from that so that they had an extra performance that they could, you know, blend in. So some of the stuff you hear on the LP and the CD is actually from Hollywood Bowl. And but they didn't broadcast the show until the following September. The date was September 16th, 1968. Now what's interesting is that Funny Girl opened in New York on September 18th. So there's your first instance of Barbra synergy. TV special, movie premiere. Same time, multiple publicity for two major items, which I think is going to happen this year with My Mother's Curse. I predict when My Mother's Curse comes out in November, we're going to get that 3 CD set that we've been hearing about called Release Me. We're going to get some more Barbra synergy. We're going to get her talking about all this stuff at the same time and promoting it all at the same time, and probably talking about what she's going to be doing after that. Because between you and me and the lamppost, Barbra ain't stopping anytime soon. No such thing as retirement for this girl. Barbra's going to keep on working. So, okay, that's it for today. That's it for our 7th vidcast, our Happening vidcast. Please, please, please continue giving me your feedback. Even if you're just to say, like this vidcast, another good one, whatever, because I'm very needy and insecure. I need the reinforcement. I need to hear that you guys are enjoying these. Otherwise, I'm going to think that you don't, and I may stop doing them. But that's not a threat. That's just a point of fact. I really want to hear from you guys. So thanks again for listening in and watching me. And I'll see you next week. And who knows, maybe by next week we'll have something else exciting to talk about. Next Sunday will be Oscar Day. So we'll talk a little bit about Barbra and the Oscars maybe. How's that? Okay? Go back and check my Examiner Oscar quiz. See how well you do. All right, enough schmoozing for this week. Take care, folks. This is Allison Waldman, your Barbra Insider, signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.